Hello and welcome back, listeners. This is Everett Way with the PressCorps. We have some more information from the front lines in this 71st conflict of the Valley Masayan War. To start off with, we are going to reiterate that there is a severe storm warning across the center regions. The storm has shifted slightly and grown in size even. It has shifted away from the Callahan's Passage area and is now focused around the Deadlands region and the eastern half of Lochmoor. We're seeing it affect Fearmore specifically, as well as some of the fighting that's happening in Tomb of the First. It's as far south, it's as far north from there as Fort Duncan and Prairie Bazaar in Lynn of Mercy, as we have reported earlier. The storm is still affecting all regions in Deadlands, and on the west side, we're still hearing that light rain is occurring around Eastmarch in the Drowned Vale. Small confirmations, these are, light confirmations, not exactly a full confirmation of some rain happening in northern Umbral Wildwood in the Stray and Vagrant Bastion. These are unconfirmed reports, however, and we have not heard any news from Marvin Hollow since the last weather update that we have had. It's a severe storm warning, so you will have excessive rain, you'll have thunder and lightning in the area. Be on the lookout for mud patches, and they will cause, as you're walking through those muddy patches, it'll be obviously a little harder to walk in, you'll be a little more encumbered. So if you're listening to this as a soldier on the front line, stay to the grassy areas, stay to the wooden, if you're building any wooden fortifications, or stay indoors if at all possible. This rainstorm has reached its peak. It'll go on for some time. We don't know where it's going to move. We don't know how long it will go on for, but PressCorps will be here to give you as much information as we know. That's it for the weather. As far as the actual combat goes, we are seeing, we're seeing combat on all the predicted fronts and a few more. There is some light skirmishing happening around the Fearmore area, moving into Tomb of the First. It looks like the Colonials are pushing in along both roads there into Tomb of the First, with Wardens having a secure foothold on the south side of the River Mercy. Gunfire and high explosive grenades are the flavors of the day here at Tomb of the First, and across all regions from what we heard, as there's not a lot of technology, there's not a lot of vehicles entering the field just yet, so early it is in the war. We're working with the most basic of weaponry here. Across the regions, there is some fighting happening. Let's look west now. In Faranac Coast, Husk Hollow seems to be an active hotbed, as is Jade Cove. Jade Cove and Apollo's Landing, that is very expected. Husk Hollow, however, seems to have the majority of combat in Faranac Coast. Towards the east, in the center we have Deadlands, obviously. Abandoned Ward is going to be a major hotbed. And we'll be back to Deadlands in just a moment. Further east from there, Marvin Hollow has a very large fight happening around the Maiden's Vale area, with Colonials pushing in from the southwest. Wardens on the defensive there, already building up their lines. We're going to see about having a reporter there in the future to report what's happening over there. At Saltbrook Channel, moving further east towards Endless Shore, there is fighting happening at Liegehearth, outside of the walls of Saltbrook Channel. Colonials have not yet breached the walls of Saltbrook Channel, which the Wardens have taken very early in this war, securing them a nice logistical foothold there in Endless Shore. Light skirmishing happening around that region as well. As far as the far border regions, for any of the island maps, as the soldiers are apt to call them, there are no major conflicts, only light skirmishes and light poking here and there major conflicts are happening towards the center of the map. And speaking of the center of the map, we go to Deadlands, more specifically Callahan's Boot, where we have one of our reporters live on scene, Liam Porter. Can you hear us in the studio?
Oh, they're pushing hard. Guys, shoot them, boys.
Liam, you there?
Apologies. Had a little bit of trouble with communication. Can you hear me?
It's all good. I understand that the rainstorm is in pretty strong effect over there. Is that affecting communication at all?
A little bit. I'm having a little bit of issue with the technical side of things. The radios aren't working quite as well, but they're still getting through, which is good.
All right, well, that's good. You're coming through loud and clear over here now that we've worked past that. Excellent. So you are in Callahan's boot. Liam Porter is one of our Warden correspondents here at the PressCorps. Liam, what are you seeing at the moment?
So, as it stands, a large portion of the force, which I was following, has actually transitioned their focus from Callahan's Boot to Abandoned Ward. They took the Colonials by surprise and actually made their way towards the Abandoned Ward Town Hall, but they did not have the explosives to take it down. So there was some decent pressure there for a moment, but the Colonials came back in full force, and now it's more of a deadlock on this bridge right here. This is the East Bridge coming in from the north side of Abandoned Ward. Quite a few soldiers on both sides, a surprising amount, especially with the lack of infrastructure. And it's honestly really impressive how well both sides are holding their lines without any kind of backline support whatsoever.
I see. The east side, or the east bridge at Abandoned Ward. How has the rain affected that urban combat in Abandoned Ward? Because we're seeing muddy patches out in the fields, but how is it affecting the more paved urban areas there?
Well, this is almost ideal combat for in a rain or storm scenario, because you're already in a built-up area, right? And there's no devastation. The war has just started. Everything's pristine, so it's almost just like walking around town in a rainstorm, right? There's almost no issue for the majority of soldiers. I think they're probably very happy that they get the opportunity to be here and not slogging out in the mud fields. Because I can tell you from personal experience, the mud here gets thick and it does not come off.
That's actually what I'm seeing over here at Tomb of the First. I happen to get out into Fearmore. I'm not all the way at Tomb of the First. I'm about halfway between Tomb and Fearmore, and it is all field and dirt road, and the mud is absolutely everywhere. It gets in the way quite a lot. So you said the Wardens were able to reach the town hall of Abandoned Ward earlier. Is that right?
Yes, the Colonials actually just threw a truck over the bridge in an attempt to clear it, and that attempt succeeded. They charged underneath it. They have broken the Warden's foothold on the foot of that bridge right there. And of course, this is early war. Everything's highly mobile and squad-based. There's no backline support whatsoever. They've actually pushed the Wardens, for the most part, out of the plaza, and I think the majority of the Wardens I haven't seen. I think most of the squads have fallen back to regroup, so that they can perform a counterattack of some kind, or they might transition their focus entirely to the pits, an attempt to push a little faster down there and cut Ward off. It's all just a matter of what the NCOs and the people commanding the squads decide to do with their men.
That seems to make sense. This doesn't sound like a rout quite yet. More of a regroup, reassess, and then a move back out. It's interesting that you note that the Colonials used one of their trucks to push across the bridge there. Those trucks, from what I understand, very early in the war are extremely valuable. So using one, potentially losing one so early when they're needed for the logistics, especially in a place so exposed as Abandoned Ward is, that's a high-risk strategy. And you're saying that it's paying off, that they're still controlling the plaza with that.
They are still controlling the plaza. There might be a few other extraneous circumstances going on here. I think the Wardens are experiencing quite a very significant amount of logistical pressure to actually get their soldiers supplied.
Awesome.
And I think they're really suffering in their ability to hold ground because of that.
I see. And I'd suppose the rain would affect.
Yeah, so instead of talking about abandoned ward,
there's
talk
logistics
about,
vehicles coming in.
defense
But that's actually a good
the
question.
city
Have
instead.
you seen the rain affect how logistics is operated back there, or does that not affect vehicles as much?
From what I can tell, these vehicles seem to be built to handle off-road conditions very well. I managed to hitch a ride with a logistics driver on my way down here. Very nice guy, and his truck was handling the mud just fine. Went through like the muddiest roads you could possibly imagine, and it didn't really seem much different than driving per usual. I think the only real difference, if you're considering anything logistics wise, is going to be in the on-foot logistics. For instance, if you're trying to carry around BMATs and attempt to pop up a foxhole or pop up a watchtower, or if you're trying to harvest materials in a salvage field, and that salvage field is muddy, then you're going to experience a lot more encumbrance than you usually would. I don't think it'll affect you too much, but as far as logistics goes, there's very, very minimal effect on the rain. Though one thing that they do have to be considerate of is the decreased visibility in the rain makes it easier for partisans and logistics blockades to surprise them. So they need to be a little bit more aware of their surroundings than they usually would.
I guess that would make sense in an almost philosophical way, that with the rain staying mobile and staying moving, it'll allow you to stay mobile, but the moment you're brought to a halt, either from the mud or from the enemy force, if you will, you're pretty much stuck there in that mud, wherever you are. And that seems to be, as far as a reigning philosophy of how to operate in the rain, staying mobile is the key there. Have you seen any regiments operating around Abandoned Ward, Kellen's Boot, the Plaza, around that area?
The regiments that I have seen include Easy, and, well, actually, I think that's about the only one I've seen operating as a group. There have been a few other regiment tags. I haven't internalized them because I've been a bit concerned with trying to stay safe since the
Oh, absolutely.
The front line is very immobile. I'm not able to get as close as I can comfortably, so I haven't been able to focus on the soldiers themselves quite as much, which I really wish I could. It's just a matter of personal safety. But the only regiment that I see operating here is Easy. There is another regiment here and there. For instance, the Red Cross is here.
Good old Red Cross.
Good old Red Cross. There are a few members from 82DK. I've seen some members from some other more prominent regiments as well. So I don't think there's any concerted efforts here, but there are definitely a few regiment members wandering around.
I see. You mentioned earlier that the Colonials pushed out into the plaza, and you're saying that the front line is highly mobile at the moment. Have the Colonials continued to push, or did they stop at the plaza, just holding that?
So, as far as the plaza is concerned, I actually had to pull out back to Callahan's Boot because the infantry from Callahan's Boot has switched to a defensive mindset. They're more concerned with maintaining the bridge to the south. So there's a defensive line towards the north of the plaza. Consists of a few foxholes, and that was enough to deter them once they started pushing up against it. From what I can tell, the majority of the colonial force has directed their attention north towards Iron's Inn, and there is some fighting going on outside of Plaza in Pommel Annex. This is a very, very hot spot, a spot that we usually see with quite a bit of combat, and it's also a fairly muddy spot as well. So here in a moment, I'm actually going to be headed over there to give you guys a view of what it's like to slog through the mud in Deadlands.
Please, I'm pretty curious myself, especially as it comes into the plaza where it's a little more urban. For those who might not be familiar with the particulars of this area, or maybe you come from out of region, Pommel Annex is an interesting crossroad between three areas. When you move out from Abandoned Ward going north, there's two roads that you could take. One of them goes towards Pommel Annex, and that links up with a road coming out from the north, Iron's End, and from the southeast, you have Callahan's Boot. They all kind of meet up there right at the edge of the city. And it's an interesting hotbed for combat in that area because it's a crossroad for roads, but it's also one of the few access points to the city itself. So, Liam, have you got up there? Have you got back to the front lines?
I have just about almost arrived. I'm making my way towards the friendly group of infantry at the moment. That way I can get myself some cover. Seems like they've moved more towards the actual built-up area, and they're moving away from the mud. But definitely quite a few of them are still having to deal with the mud. As far as mobility goes, I feel like a lot of these soldiers are actually planning to take light just so that they can handle the mud a little bit better. Because if you carry too much weight, then you're going to be at a huge disadvantage.
This seems to make sense, and this is part of those adaptations that we're hearing both sides have to make as these severe storms and blizzards start making more appearances in the conflicts coming up. So as a quick aside, while you're getting set up there and towards the front line, a little bit of an update from different regions across the map, or across the war zone overall. I actually want to pay particular attention to Orebreaker Isle. It's not a region that we've talked about yet so far, but there are two key developments in Orebreaker Isle. The first is Cofteri Channel, which is the colonial foothold in Orebreaker Isle. The Colonials are holding off there. However, I am hearing reports of a massive Warden push into Cofteri Channel. It is one of the old relic bases, which means that it does not have a lot of the garrison house defenses around to protect it. It is simply the relic itself and whatever defenses can be built around it. It seems that the Wardens are pushing in from Integrum, which means that they've cut off one of the two main logistics paths in. It's an interesting play because it also means that the Wardens can build a line on the south side of the bridge there and continue logistics into Partisan Island. They've given themselves the breathing room and opened up the logistics line down into, what's that, Fisherman's Row down there. As far as war strategy goes, it's a good play by them. The future will tell whether it also means that they're able to take Cofteri Channel with it, or if the Colonials redeploy and try to respond to that. Secondly, in Orebreaker Isle, we see there's a bit of a story with one of the islands out here in Orebreaker Isle. This is an island far out to the shoreline. It's called Castor Island, and many different regiments have taken the time to build different, commando bases, if you will, out there. There's some skirmishing at Castor Island, surprisingly enough, that have been reported on both sides. One would think that this early in the war, there's not a lot of naval logistics that can bring a fight over there, but there does seem to be fighting in Castor Island. That's what we're hearing on the radio waves here on the ground. That's about all the information that I have, though, that there is fighting there. I don't have any news on how much fighting or if there's any base going on or who is winning at that spot, but from what I've heard, that island is being fought over. As far as unpredictable wars go, this is certainly one of them. Moving back around just to touch on some of the other regions at the moment, in Pharaonic Coast, Husk Hollow is still being fought over. That region is about the same as the last we left it. Jade Cove doesn't have as many Wardens in it. However, there used to be fighting there. It seems that the Colonials have pushed them out, or those Wardens have moved over to Husk Hollow to try to push the Colonials out of that region and take control of the bridge going down into the mainland. Here in Lockmore, the Tomb of the First Fight is still continuing. we've heard the Wardens have actually taken out one of the forward operating bases for the Colonials, and then pushed back. The Colonials have retaken their old forward operating base. So it's quite the back and forth here, and the storm is still raging in parts of this area. Fearmore, where I'm sitting at in Fearmore here, I'm sitting inside in one of the garrison houses here, myself garrisoned up, and the storm is still raging over here, definitely affecting the soldiers in this region. Moving further across, in Marben Hollow, we're still seeing one of the biggest fights in the opening of this war at Maiden's Vale. The Colonials have not yet pushed into the heart of Maiden's Vale. They are still pushing in from that southwest region. The Wardens are putting up a staunch defense in that area. That seems to be where one of the major fights is happening. Like Jeffrey and I were saying earlier, that's going to be one of the key places to keep an eye for. Down south from there in Drowned Vale, there's no progress from either side, light skirmishing, but Loggerhead is the center point of that fight going on. And again, even further east in Saltbrook Channel, there is still continued fighting at the outskirts of Liegehearth in Endless Shore. That's near Saltbrook Channel. We're going to go back to Deadlands now. Back to Liam Porter. Liam, you say that you have an interview ready. Can you tell us where you are and who you're speaking to? Bit of a quick change over. Liam, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear.
I see.
Apologies for that. I was getting things situated.
I was going to say, it sounded like you were talking to your interviewee. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We are just south of Iron's End, just south of the Iron's End relic base. With me here, I have Dr. Fox. He is a frontline soldier that has been working together with his comrades in arms and coordinating them. I have a few questions for you, sir, if you may. I'm very curious what your opinions are on the new weather that we're experiencing here. And what are your first impressions on the mud so far? How has that been impacting your combat?
It's definitely changed loadouts that I've used since I started playing this game. It's made me bring less and less to the front every time, even though we have somewhat of an abundance at the starting locations, just because by the time you get from Iron's End to the front line, you're so encased in mud you can't run. You're sitting duck for enemy bullets.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that. The one other thing that I was curious about, do you have any idea as to what you think might be the best course of action as far as combat in the mud goes, maybe for the logistics or for your other frontline soldiers?
For the other frontline soldiers, it's just carry less to the front, which most people would say at this point, with logistics being as overwhelmed. With what I can tell is the highest player count we've had in a while, just bringing less and less to the front.
All right then, and I would assume that the majority of you are very thankful that as far as terrain is concerned, this is a very, very firm ground we're standing on compared to what it could be. I'm sure many of you are very thankful that we're not slogging through some place like the pits where the ground has been repeatedly destroyed over and over.
Oh, absolutely. Though with the new No Man's Land feature, hopefully it won't stay that way.
Oh well, I'm also very excited to see how that's going to play out. But I'll let you get back to the front line. Thank you for your time, sir. And good luck out there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porter.
That was Dr. Fox again, coming with you from just south of the Iron's End relic base, pushing into Ward, on the Warden side. And once again, all of our suspicions have pretty much been confirmed. The general consensus from the infantry, as far as mud goes, is to carry light. And that is something that I think a lot of you should probably try and take to heart.
Absolutely. It doesn't seem like the vehicles are affected as much, but as you're traveling around the rainstorm on foot, definitely carry less on you, and that's going to be a challenge. People might feel that they are not as prepared for what they're about to go into with carrying less. The benefits of staying mobile versus carrying more and being able to do more things with the equipment that you have, that is the cost benefit, if you will, that every soldier is going to have to weigh in their own minds as they're going in. Every regiment is going to have to call out for their own group how much they bring, how much they leave behind. And it's part of the adaptations that each soldier and each regiment will go through as this war is constantly changing and we're having to adapt to new things. Do you have anything else for us up at Iron's End?
Just as a slight update, the Wardens are starting to push a bit further into Plaza. They're actually starting to get into the more firm ground. I am actually curious to see if their loadouts are going to change to reflect their ability to move around, because as they move further into the pits, not further into the pits, my bad, further into Plaza, there's going to be less and less mud for them to contend with, so they'll be able to move a little bit faster and carry a little bit more weight. I'm actually going to try and get another interview here. Alcathus, you're live on air with Liam Porter of the PressCorps. If I may, could I get you a few questions real quick? No, he seems a little bit too engrossed in what he's doing.
Oh, that's okay. We don't want to disturb the soldiers too much.
Yeah.
We always absolutely
Press Q
won't
to get out.
push if they are very occupied.
Take his shotgun.
While you're looking around to see who else is around, just one last update about the
One last
weather
update. So, from what I can tell, a few more regiments have moved in. A new one that I have yet to see, named GR plus PB. That's pluses on the plus sign. I'm not sure where they came from. They're definitely working as an organized group. They seem to be fairly coordinated. There are a few more regiments that are active in the region, including but not limited to SSC and UTG. And I have seen a few more regiments operating. They're, again, tags that I'm not quite sure I recognize. Members from regiments wandering around on their own, getting work done. As well as a Russian regiment that is, it is 29th ISB.
29th ISB, I don't think I've come across them personally, but then again, lots of dormant regiments are going to be coming back, lots of new regiments coming to life, if you will, for this war. I'm not surprised that there are many tags or patches on uniforms, the equivalent of everything. Like, there's going to be a lot of new names out and about. One that I did recognize that you called out SSC, that's Sapphire Sentinels, if I recall. They're a long-standing Warden regiment that have been around for and very active for a long time. Most
definitely. I think the ones that I recognize the most are, of course, SSE and Easy. I haven't seen Easy in quite a long time as well, so that's another clan that's probably, you know, getting back into the swing of things with a new update. And like you said, I can almost guarantee you we'll see new faces, we'll see old faces that we haven't seen in a while. Just make sure we greet them with open arms, teach them what to do, show them what's changed, and make sure we get the front line moving in the war effort.
A good message for all ears, I'd say. Thank you very much for all the information from Iron's End and the interview. Since other fights are continuing as we last reported, and the weather is staying just about the same, we haven't seen the storm move in any particular direction. We're going to cut to a music break for a little bit, and we might be back later. We'll be back at least for one more weather report for sure. We're going to reach out, we're going to see If there's anyone else in the front lines that we can hear from, we're going to take a music break for now. Listeners, stay tuned, please. Soldiers, stay safe, please. And for everyone else, stay foxy, I guess.
Thanks for listening to 121.